everybody, it's Chugga Conroy, and we're here today to talk about the Kingdom Hearts animated series pilot, a shelf project produced for the Disney Channel in 2003. This was something of a white whale to the community for a long time, the idea that we came so close to getting a Kingdom Hearts TV show. Every now and again, images or details would emerge from the people who made it, capturing the imagination of many fans. However, it took decades before the full pilot would finally be released online. If you've never seen it, the story's set in Agrabah, right at the beginning of the second act of the story. The concept of the pilot was to show what a normal episode would be like, rather than the humble beginnings or character introductions that would be in the first episode. To talk about it, I'd like to introduce Seth Kearsley, the director and producer of The Lost Pilot. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Like, I was so curious about this thing. I'd heard mumblings about it over the years. Like, it's a huge honor to get to talk to you about this.
Yeah, thank you. It was like through the years, people like didn't believe that I actually had it or that I actually did it and that it actually existed. And so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You might know Kearsley from directing the Adam Sandler movie 8 Crazy Nights. I feel like that's your big claim to fame. I'm not joking. He sells stickers of a mashup between Kingdom Hearts and 8 Crazy Nights on his website. It's the crossover I didn't know I needed. Could you tell us more about yourself and your history in the animation industry?
How far back do you want me to go?
Oh, okay, we got time. There's no YouTube time limit in 2025.
I grew up building houses with my dad. I never thought about animation as a career. And then I had a friend when I was in high school that went to Cal Arts. He was a couple years ahead of me, and I would go out there for the parties and stuff, because the Cal Arts parties, especially then, were pretty insane. So he was in the animation department, and so I used to wander around during the parties, just like all the drawings on all the walls by all the people that are now like famous, just seeing what people had going on their desks. Like, it just really felt like I felt called to it. I always drew. I was I have cystic fibrosis. So as a kid, I was very sick a lot and spent a lot of time in my dad's work truck drawing from his Conan comics or from his Conan books. So my friend was like, you could get into the school with your sketchbooks. That sort of like headed me down that path. My first job in animation was on the Max for MTV, and then The Simpsons, and then, first run at Disney on Timon and Pumbaa, and then I was directing Mummies Alive for Deke. Mummies Alive goes to Dilbert. Dilbert goes to 8 Crazy Nights. And then after 8 Crazy Nights, I was talking to my agent about what I wanted to do, like as doing kind of like an American anime kind of a thing. And that's when he was like pointing me in the direction of Disney for this Kingdom Hearts pilot that was going on. So
that's more than I expected, honestly. Like, I'd looked into you and I was familiar with some of your work. I didn't know that you did work on Dilbert and The Simpsons. Like, I'd watch both of those.
Yeah, Simpsons, I was on season 7. So my first episode was the Lisa the Vegetarian episode. And like some of my first scenes, my very first scene is the Troy McClure video where he's like, scientists agree, and then you see a scientist that goes, like that was my first scene.
Did you do the or did you do the Troy McClure?
I did the yeah. I was very happy to not do main characters right at the very beginning because they're very hard. My next scenes, like in that batch, where the cute little sheep comes out, and then they go from like one cute sheep to a cuter sheep to a cuter sheep, and then he's like, out of the way, you. So that was like in my first weeks on the show.
That's a meme now. Like,
I know, yeah.
The fact that was one of your first
people
scenes.
Tell me these things, and I'm like, oh, that's great.
This is nutty timing because we're watching through The Simpsons right now, and we just watched Lisa the Vegetarian like 3 days ago.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So yeah, it's very fresh in my memory. I can't believe that something that you animated in your early days has persisted that long in internet culture. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I could still be working on The Simpsons right now if I never left. Like, I didn't think of it like that at the time. I thought like 7 seasons. How much longer could this possibly last? And here we are.
Be one stable career, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Getting to the point where you talked about wanting to do an American anime, getting to Kingdom Hearts, I understand that you did a little bit of everything on the project. I've heard you call it your baby before.
Yeah, when it first came up, my agent sent me to talk to them about this thing that combined like the Final Fantasy universe with the Disney universe, and I was just like, I don't even understand how that is a thing. I went and met on it, and the art looked really cool, and I was looking for something to do, and like I've always been a fan of like Goofy and Donald and like all that. I got the game from them, and this is after 8 Crazy Nights, where like basically I was doing nothing but playing Grand Theft Auto 3. So I just swapped for Kingdom Hearts and then just played it nonstop until I finished it. When I finished it and then I read the script, I was like, this isn't really the game, because the script kind of read like an episode of Aladdin starring the Kingdom Hearts characters, like when Scooby-Doo has the Harlem Globetrotters on or something like that. I was able to work with the writer to rewrite the script, and then I boarded the whole thing myself. I had a friend who was like, I totally know After Effects, I totally know Premiere, I can composite it for you, I can edit it for you, and he totally didn't know either of those things. And so I ended up having to also composite and edit, so that's why some of the drawings are a little rough, because, the time that I would have spent finessing those drawings went into compositing and editing. But yeah, it was like, I was so excited about the fact that it would have been like a sequential story, that there would have been a season-long arc, and, that it wasn't just wrapping everything up in 22 minutes. Disney hadn't done that since the Gargoyles. I was like hoping to like bring that back. I poured everything into it, so that's why I say it was kind of like my baby. I just was so passionate about it, and it like stung so much when it didn't go.
That's a lot to unpack. Like, just really quick, I want to say that I respect directors like you a lot, the people that just do a little bit of everything and are down in the trenches with their crew instead of just barking orders from a chair, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Kingdom Hearts are like the 2 defining PS2 games, I feel like. Those were the ones that just everyone had to have. I gotta ask, with you bringing up the whole Final Fantasy Disney crossover sounding unusual but appealing, the Final Fantasy cast had a pretty strong presence in the early days of Kingdom Hearts. Were those characters and references planned to be in the animated series, or would their story beats have been adjusted to include new characters instead?
I think that the conversation was to like deviate away from the Final Fantasy characters, so that there wasn't like all of that extra legal parts to it for the pilots. They didn't want any Final Fantasy characters. It was more the idea that it had gone through the Final Fantasy universe and was now invading the Disney universe.
Okay, so it probably would have not featured characters like Squall if it hadn't gotten picked up, okay.
I mean, for me, yes, but for Disney corporate, it just becomes like a little bit of a legal mess. But, I don't know, maybe they would have. But it definitely wasn't. They didn't want to touch on it in the pilot. They also didn't want to, the planet that I really wanted to do was Halloween Town, because I'm a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan, and they're like, no, you can't do that one. I'm like, come on. And also they have kind of like this standing rule, or they did at the time, pilots couldn't be like the origin story. It had to be as though it was episode 7. So I kind of sidestepped that by having Sora like waking up from a dream of what happened to Destiny Island. So there's a lot of story to pack into 7 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It was 11 minutes, yeah.
On that note, I always wanted to know, was it going to be, in your mind, 2 11-minute stories, or was there a plan to flesh out this pilot to a 22-minute story later?
Yeah, no, it was 11 minutes just for the development process, but yeah, it would have been a full 22.
All right, because that would have been pretty unusual for a serialized show to just be 2 11-minute stories.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you played the game and that you were a big fan of it. The story really captivated a generation with me and my friends, just the whole it appealing to a lot of the problems that preteens are going through, growing older, coming of age, growing apart from your friends, things in your life getting away from you. So usually when a story gets adapted for TV, there isn't a goal to remake it word for word, not changing anything. You want to tell a different version of the story. What were directions that you wanted to take characters? Were there scenes that you wanted to happen that we didn't get to see in the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time spent on the ship. They're traveling from planet to planet, and at the time I was watching a lot of Cowboy Bebop, and so I felt like we should have some of that time on the ship. I felt like I wanted to have Kairi, more active in it, and have Sora and Riku like meet up at different times. So it really felt like that they were both after the same goal. They were just taking different paths to get to that goal.
Wow, yeah, you're definitely a man of my taste. Everybody always wants Kairi to like do more in the series because she's absent for so much of the first game and doesn't really do much for a long time after that either.
Yeah, I've watched the reaction videos, and when Kairi kicks one of the Heartless in the head, everyone's like, "Oh my god, she just full-on kicked that guy in the head!" I really like the idea of like the damsel in distress that needs some boys to save her, and this is even before I have 2 girls, and so even before I had kids I was like, let's not do that. I wasn't looking to like recreate like word for word what was happening in the game because I feel like that would be boring for people that played the game. So it was kind of like there's the game storyline and the show storyline. I just kind of wanted to have them kind of like do that a little bit. So it touches on a lot of the same stuff, but like in a little bit of a different way.
Have you kept up with the series after the first game? Do you have any ideas for what you do with those characters?
I did not keep up with it. That's where it's like the heartbreak. It was kind of like that like summer camp sweethearts that you were like, this is gonna be forever, and I had all these like ideas of like what I was gonna do with the show and stuff like that, and it was so far from the next game coming out, and then when that didn't happen, I was just like, just sucked that didn't happen. That they were like, it tested really well, it tested better than anything else in that round, but they were gonna put it on hold, and they never showed Nomura because I think that they had shown him that original script that wasn't the game, and I feel like that maybe he was offended by that, and they weren't wanting to offend him with the pilot. Feel like if they could have shown him that, maybe he would see that it was staying true to what the game was without just being a copy of the game.
That's a shame. It just sounds like an unfortunate storm of just office politics and unfortunate happenings. Gosh. If you ever want to check out the series again, 2 is generally considered the best. I think 358 Days is really underrated. It has a story that just breaks you.
I've had a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans say like that they just want me to watch them and do a reaction video of watching what happens in the next games.
That's what I was about to say. You could totally make like a series out of that, just reacting to the cutscenes and kind of giving your own opinion on them. I think there's people that would love to hear it. You were mainly adapting the first game. I understand not wanting to play the sequels right away because it does suck when something is yanked away from you, and I usually don't want anything to do with it myself when something like that happens to me. But the Xehanort saga, the overarching story in Kingdom Hearts, it runs from 2002 all the way up to Kingdom Hearts 3 in 2019.
Yeah.
That would be an immensely long life for an animated series. I mean, you worked on The Simpsons, but
right, yeah.
Was your intention to keep the series coverage strictly to the first game, or were you interested in continuing it on through the sequels?
There was only the first game, and having sequels to games was, at that time it wasn't like every game just got a sequel. In my head when they said, "Oh, we're gonna do more games," I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure." Anything that came out, of course, like incorporating it, bringing it into the mix. Thinking about how to incorporate future games, I was only thinking about how to do justice to the first game. The first game took place in so many locations that they had already done entire series for. I feel like we could have really like made that show look like we spent a lot more money than we actually did, because there's that whole library of everything that exists for all of the other shows. So, where like on a normal show, you do a design for that incidental in the background. We've got like an archive of incidentals from that world that we could populate the world with, and all of the backgrounds that have been done, and the animatic used some of the original backgrounds from the movie. I got to go into the archive and pull different original production art backgrounds and get scans of that. So when you see them like running up the, to the lamp, those are the actual backgrounds from the movie.
That must have been a dream come true. I've seen rare videos of the archives, and gosh, just seeing like the pool of light without the characters in it and everything, it's amazing.
It was pretty cool, and I didn't get to touch anything.
I was about to ask, did you like stay late?
Yeah, someone with white gloves touched things and, took very specific notes of what I wanted to use and how and all of that.
I was going to ask about with all the different worlds and how you'd have new environments, new characters, prop design, and maybe even new art styles if we're talking things like Nightmare Before Christmas. That sounds really daunting, and there's also the fact that Sora, he grows up slowly over the course of the games and he gets tons of different costumes. I feel like that would have been really stressful on the art and design teams, but it seems like Disney thought of that and gave you the tools that you would have needed to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, having all of those archives of all of the shows to draw from, I think if it was happening now, like it would definitely be like a CG series, but at the time, it was going to be more of like a 2D series because CG production wasn't there yet. So then we really could have used all of those backgrounds, and yeah, in terms of like the other, like all of the other worlds that would go to, like it would be expensive, but when you have all of this stuff that you can draw from, it kind of offsets the costs. So.
Okay. I guess when you just have such a rich history like Disney, you'd have that kind of covered. So I want to talk about the release of the content over the years. So the community first learned of the pilot when you posted a storyboard to your DeviantArt account. I want to know what prompted you to share that and what the reaction was to it at the time.
I never had like a huge following on DeviantArt, so I would post something, I'd get like 3 people liked it, right? As a director, a lot of times, what you have to show is very little because like you're fixing other people's boards. And so it's not like you like keep that stuff to show as examples of your work. It was something that I was super proud of. I felt like, the drawings, especially the ones that I posted on that DeviantArt, like I felt like I nailed those drawings, and it was more the kind of thing that I wanted to do. And so, I wanted to get that out there. It's just like the desire to share. So I posted it, and then those, I don't even remember, it got like thousands of likes and views and stuff like that. It was like exponentially more than my usual posts. And then that's when I was like, I guess they did do another game, and I guess there is still a fan base for this. A happy surprise.
You had no idea the box you were opening?
I had no idea, no.
I mean, it shows that they weren't wrong when they said it was testing really well and that people wanted this.
Yeah. Also, like, this is way before you have like a verified Twitter account or anything like that, which I still don't have a verified Twitter account because I just...
Oh, me neither.
I like, at the time, people were saying that I was pretending to be Seth Kearsley, and I'm like, I'm flattered that you think that I'm important enough for someone to pretend to be me, but that just isn't the case. I shared like a picture of, hi Kat. I shared a picture of the VHS tape, and people's heads exploded because it was like the animatic was this like unicorn that people had heard rumors of, but then all this time passed and nothing. So yeah, when I shared a picture of the cassette, their heads exploded and my Twitter account exploded.
Yeah. So you posted it on the internet in 2022. You've previously explained why you chose to release it in your videos, but for the sake of audience, if you're okay with it, I'd like for you to recount it because it is one nutty story.
Yeah. So yeah, it was always a thing that, I just felt like I did a good job. That, definitely could have been better. And I just really wanted people to see it. In January of 22, I was almost killed in a car accident. And not like the almost killed, like, people say like, I almost stepped off the curb and as a bus was coming by, I was almost killed. Like it fractured all of my ribs, both hips, my right pelvis, lacerated heart, collapsed lung, ruptured spleen. I have a scar that goes from here to like below my belly button now. I have plates on my ribs. Like, it was a lot. I was in coma for a while. It took a long time to get back to walking. And the Whitey as Sora drawing was something that I had been working on before the accident, and then it just sort of like sat in my living room. So that was actually like the first piece of art that I did or finished after the accident. And the reaction from the fans was so huge that I was like, you know what? Like, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I'm just going to post the video because, like, you know, the Kingdom Hearts fans have been so amazing throughout the years, and like, I really just wanted to share it. I posted it. I set like a premiere date and had a countdown, and you know, and then I was, you know, I've never done anything like that before or had that kind of attention on something before. And I think there were like 3,000 people that watched it live. And I was looking at the comment section that was just going so fast you couldn't read the comments. So yeah, it was amazing. And did I have a lot of pain management in my system when I was making these decisions? Yes, I had a lot of pain management in my system. I maybe wouldn't have, you know, if I was, you know, in a better state physically, but it was such good medicine to like have all of the love from all of the fans that you know, sort of confirmed for me, even like, you know, YouTubers that were looking at it to totally bash it, and they definitely bashed, like, you know, when Riku goes a magic lamp, so you know, they definitely bashed it for those things. But then in the end, like, basically everyone was like, man, we were robbed. Like, that was good. Like, how come that didn't happen? So that was very, like, good medicine, you know, right in that moment. So
that's a lot more of a nice, wholesome story than I thought it was going to be. Like, I mean, obviously it starts out horrific, and I'm glad you're okay. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, a lot.
But yeah, it sounds like it came at a good time. Like, I guess it served a purpose for you, and you finally got to, in a way, have your big launch party for this thing that you love so much and getting to share it with people.
Yeah. And, you know, it also, like, the accident kind of, like, you know, sparked other things for me of, like, you know, stuff that I always wanted to do or stuff that I always wanted to share that, like, it just never happened. And, you know, the rest of the stuff was, you know, my stuff. But yeah, it was good. And, you know, they were very cool about it. They had, like, an old friend that called me, and, you know, we caught up about the accident, like, all of the stuff. And then, you know, like, after catching up for, like, an hour, then she was like, so I gotta ask you to take that video down. And I was like, oh, like, at some point? And she's like, no, today. And send me confirmation that it's down. And I'm like, okay, I will. So, yeah. But there were all kinds of people that, you know, like, grabbed it, and, you know, they were, you know, I've heard people say that they just assumed that Disney was going to kill it while it was playing, and, you know, so they were, like, recording their screen and stuff like that. When people would post, like, that they had, you know, if you missed it here, you can find it here. I retweeted some of those, and that's when I got the cease and desist letter that was like, you're done with this, no more. So.
Dang. Gosh, I agree that that we were robbed, because watching it for the first time, I was pretty into it. There's a big joke in the Kingdom Hearts community that Goofy is the smartest member of the main trio, and I think that comes across in your adaptation with his speech about how there's a hero inside of all of us to Sora. I remember going just aw when I heard that. It was so cute. Bill Farmer does an amazing job as Goofy, always.
Yeah.
A big wish of mine was to see the fight scenes fully animated one day. I noticed that the animatic, that there was a lot of anime inspiration, but there were a lot of exaggerated frames at the ends of the actions so that Sora would kind of fit more in with his Western cartoon friends that were fighting with him. What sort of style would you imagine seeing it in motion?
I mean, I always, I had the art book, and that was my reference. And so I always imagined that, like, you know, the Western characters would have Western style animation, and the anime characters would have anime style animation. And there would be a very distinct difference between the styles. That was all kind of my, like, American anime kind of thing that I was talking about. So I guess if I was to do anything different with the anime characters, I would have just had them look the way they were designed. The original 2D designs. I may have done a little bit more to the acting in terms of, I feel like a lot of anime, because the dialogue is recorded after the fact, that the visual performance of the character doesn't really match the vocal performance. And so I would have just matched the visual performance a little bit more, but not doing like exaggerated, Western style squash and stretch animation. Would be more like, because of my background in primetime and the subtle acting that you do most of the time for a primetime show, would have been more that kind of like subtle acting. And then having the action stuff, I was really trying to mimic some of the the moves that are in the game. So like when Sora goes crashing down and his legs go out like that, like it's because that's how he does it in the game. So
certainly. I guess to place the audience in the time a little bit, back then, Western animation was so different. You wouldn't see something like this really attempted much. Serialized shows weren't common, and I've heard from people in the industry that there was this mindset that people don't want serialized animated shows because what happens if somebody misses an episode? It wasn't like now where you can just stream things whenever you want. Avatar wouldn't premiere for another 2 years after this produced. So was that maybe a concern with the show getting picked up? Maybe a reason that it didn't get greenlit in addition to them being worried about continuity with the sequels?
Anime was already doing, sequential stories. The struggle at Disney was that Gargoyles had a sequential story, and it wasn't so much about, if you missed episode 3, you'd be like playing catch up in episode 4. It was more of a production concern because, when you have a sequential story, it has to come out like in that order that it went into the pipeline. Then as you have production issues come up because, maybe that episode got a lot more notes, or, the board artist on that episode was a little weaker and it needed more revision, or that episode has a lot more characters and so the design department is really bogged down. In a normal production where it's not sequential, you would just take episode 4 and you'd move it to episode 6 and you'd sort of shift everything up. But you can't do that. So when Gargoyles did it, I didn't work on Gargoyles, but I've just heard that was why Disney was not interested in doing a sequential story, is because of the production nightmare that it was for Gargoyles when they did that. So, but I feel like the fact that they were making more games was the real reason why we didn't do anything. So I feel like that the time maybe could have come for this show. If there wasn't another game that was coming out and we had done it, then yeah, it would have been a sequential story.
I gotcha. I get the feeling that it would have been self-contained, like every episode could stand on its own merits, that you wouldn't struggle to understand everything going on if you knew the basic plot line.
Yeah. I probably would have done like, as you plot out the season, figure out like which planets we're going to like throughout the season, and then have like 2 or 3 episodes on each of the planets to help tell that story. So it's not just all tied up with a bow in 22 minutes. But that each episode has, a satisfying beginning, middle, and an end. But maybe if it was like, 3 episodes per planet, then it would have been, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, kind of like how they did Arcane. So each planet could have felt like its own contained, story.
A lot of the time in pitch documents, there's a lot of ideas for potential episodes, and we see artwork for a lot of other worlds in the intro. Was there writing done for other worlds or episodes, artwork made for them?
There was not. It was, sorry. When this came about, it was close to the end of this development cycle, and they really wanted to get Kingdom Hearts into that development cycle. So it's part of why I was doing the board myself, just to go faster. I wasn't doing it at Disney. I was doing it from home. It was the first remote work. So yeah, the focus was really just on what was in the script. And it was sort of like, if it were to get a green light, then you would start development for the series and start working on what all of the other planets would be like and where else they would go, and would they even go to Halloween Town? Like, that was a big question, because like, how do you do the stop motion characters in traditional animation, or do we do it in stop motion? Like, that would have been a little bit of a struggle of, just how to produce that and make it, be true. Wouldn't be so much now, because if it was 3D now, then you would just do it. So.
You're making me think of Channel Chasers, Fairly Odd Parents, the Fairly Odd Parents movie, where they did different animation styles for all these like TV show parodies, and there's like stop motion in there and CG and everything. I have to say, just as personal opinion here, this would have made, I think, the series a lot more digestible to people, because Kingdom Hearts just has so many sequels and prequels and in-between games nowadays, and I know a lot of hardcore fans who love the series, and even they just watch the cutscenes to get caught up on the in-between games, so there's definitely an audience for something like this. I feel like nowadays this would probably be a CG series, or it would probably be produced in Japan, but would you be open to the idea of the project coming back in any form?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it never stopped being cool for me. Like it never stopped, being that, like, I was way too passionate about it. I should reserve that level of passion for my own projects, so I don't get burned when corporations decide to not do something. But yeah, 100%. I don't think that they would go with me then at this point. Like I think that they would go with someone that was like directing on the Avatar series, or like something like that has that like they've done nothing but that kind of thing. And as far as like the other stories and the other games and all of that, like there was this meme that I saw where it was kind of talking about like the manga versus the anime, and how sometimes the storyline for the manga is like and then the storyline for the anime is like, so I have heard that the storyline for all of the rest of the Kingdom Hearts, that it goes all over the place, and it gets very complicated. I guess my approach to that would have been similar to the approach to the first game, which is to like kind of not make it more digestible, but maybe a little bit more linear, so that it was a little bit more accessible to someone who wasn't like a hardcore fan that was going to like know every detail about everything that happened before.
Okay. That's everything I wanted to ask about Kingdom Hearts specifically, but is there anything that you want fans to take away from your experience? I know that you said maybe don't get too attached to something that a corporation is making, but do you have anything else that you'd like to share about that project?
Yeah, I mean, through the years, I've had people, when I posted it, there were animators that were animating scenes from it, and it was very flattering that they were doing that they were so passionate about it, and there were people that were like, maybe like you could just do like whatever. And I feel like the thing that I found myself repeating to the Kingdom Hearts fans over the years was that spending any time working on like a Kingdom Hearts anything is kind of like building a house on someone else's property. Like you don't own it, and I would suggest, and I have multiple times to multiple different fans who have like approached me over Twitter to say like that they're working on a fan fiction of the, and I was like, take the things that you love about Kingdom Hearts and make your own thing with that, like so that it's your thing. Maybe it won't get as much attention as the Kingdom Hearts thing would get, but it's yours, and you could actually do something with it. There have been fan things that have turned into like I'm pretty sure like wasn't Twilight originally fan fiction for 50 Shades of Grey.
You have that backwards. It's 50 Shades of Grey. It was a Twilight fanfiction.
But anyway, that kind of thing. Like, make your own stuff that has, what you love about that thing.
Yeah. I that example came into my mind and I wasn't going to say it, and then you said it for me.
Yeah, sorry.
Gosh, that was so good. I guess to, just kind of talk about you a bit here and not just Kingdom Hearts. You've always been a big champion of hand-drawn animation, and I really respect that a lot. You've been super cool and candid about this whole project as well. Like, you really took it on the chin when people made fun of Riku's expressions, like we said, and you've enjoyed the attention. I've looked into your work, and you still release 2D animations to this day on your YouTube channel. Has it been challenging to keep that going as an art form? Because so much of everything is CG nowadays.
It hasn't, because TV is still very much 2D. When I did 8 Crazy Nights, it was sort of like everyone was heralding it as the end of 2D animation, and 2D animation is dead now, and like that. And everything was going to be CG, and everyone was leaving 2D animation to go to 3D. But there's so much 2D animation in TV, and I feel like it really lends itself to TV because you can go to so many different, you are limited only by your imagination and what you can draw. And for a 3D show, so much time is spent building the sets and building characters and rigging them and doing all those things. You can't just put that random character in the background because that random character has to be rigged just like everyone else. The last 5 years, I've only been doing 3D shows. I did the Brown and Friends for Netflix, and then Barbie Mysteries for Netflix. So I really appreciate the stuff that you can do with 3D. You can move the camera, you can recut things, and you're able to make adjustments to the animation more easily than with 2D. But it's still very limiting, the places that you can go and the things that you can do. So yeah, I've always now 3D's been around for long enough. I would think that there'd be more styles, more unique 3D styles, but it all seems to be it just has this sameness to it, all of the productions. And I feel like that in 2D you have a wider range of different kinds of styles because it's usually the drawing style of whoever created the show dictates what the show looks like.
I've heard a lot of people say that Pixar used to have really defined styles, but it just looks kind of all the same now, and that we've arrived at a point where Disney movies now look like Pixar movies, and Pixar movies now look like Disney movies.
Yeah.
So I've heard that. I guess I've just been so caught up on 2D animation never being at the box office, so I didn't really think about how common it is in TV. So you have a good point there.
It would be nice for 2D to make a comeback in the box office. I don't know if the spread like a virus of AI and the fact that AI can replicate that thing that everyone's doing so easily. Maybe that is where 2D animation comes back, and we let the artists who do each scene let their drawing style come through in their scenes. You see that a lot in anime. You can kind of tell the different artists that did different scenes. I would love to see that, and I feel like that the audience would be accepting of something like that now and appreciate all of the handcrafting that goes into something like that. And we're seeing a resurgence of practical effects for live action. I feel like that a resurgence of 2D animation for theatrical could have that same kind of feel, that takes you back to a time before. And I just whenever I mention anything about 2D versus 3D on Twitter, it's always there's some massive fight that blows up in the comments of people hating on one side or the other. And
that's just what Twitter is.
Yeah, but even more so for 2D versus 3D. For me, taking a stack of drawings and a pencil and creating movement and life with these characters, that just seems so much more magical. And not to throw shade on 3D, but the skill level that's required for that is just, it requires so much more skill. I'm biting my tongue because I feel the hate coming already. People that are die hard 3D I've seen over my career 31 years in animation. First show that I directed, Mummies Alive, was painted on cells and shot on a camera within film. So I've seen the evolution of the whole process over the last 30 years. And I have to say that the collective drawing ability of everyone in animation, I feel just went like that when you suddenly got access to an undo button. Because when you have to just keep moving forward and you can't just delete this whole section and start it over, it requires a different set of skills that makes you a stronger artist. So yeah.
The best tip that I gave, I used to want to be an artist myself, and the best tip that I gave people who wanted to get better at drawing was make yourself do drawings in pen. that if you make a mistake, it is now part of it, and you have to find a way to work with it, and that creative skill will just make you a better artist in time. So I feel you on that one. I agree that 2D animation can give you personality that you wouldn't see elsewhere, and everybody would animate the scene a little bit differently.
Yeah.
8 Crazy Nights kind of came out right at the beginning of the CG boom, and I've seen people blame that for its poor performance at the box office, but I gotta tell you, 8 Crazy Nights was a movie that kids in my 7th grade class loved. Like, Adam Sandler was big at the time among preteens, and there was kind of an inherent appeal to, ooh, I'm watching grown-up cartoons.
Right, yeah.
So, do you have any interest in doing anything more with 8 Crazy Nights, or... I know that you've done celebrations for its anniversaries on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, in that same sort of like heavily medicated state, I wrote a 3-page like synopsis of what a sequel might be. I actually sent it into Happy Madison, and I just recently reread it, and I was like, oh my god, I should do a pass on that, you know, in my like now unmedicated states. But yeah, I would love to do more, you know, like I've had like my relationship with 8 Crazy Nights has fluctuated wildly over the last 23 years. You know, like it has closed as many doors as it opened. You know, there was a while where it just like every year around the holidays, some person on the internet was bashing this thing that I did. Like, you know, I was 29 when I started that, but now it's like nothing but love. And you know, the people that are still talking about it aren't hating on it. They're talking about how, like you said, that you know, it was like hit at the perfect moment for the age that you were at. I've heard from other people that they were going through a hard time right in that moment, and you know, I've heard from people who had lost a parent right around that time, and went to go see this movie to just sort of like escape, and found themselves crying in the movie, and now they watch it every year because of that. Like, you know, it's like a memorial to that, you know, that loved one would have loved to watch this movie with them, and so they watch it, you know, for them. So, you know, that kind of thing, like, just like warms your heart so much that, you know, it sort of wipes away all of the other, you know, negative parts that, you know, people have said over the years. So
that's incredibly sweet. I was going to bring up how it feels like the reception to it has changed a lot over time, how initially it might not have been the best received thing, but over time it's become a bit of a meme, and you know, people do like specific things about it, and it has kind of become a tradition for some people. You don't see a lot of Hanukkah movies either.
Right, yeah, no. Also, like, you know, people say like it was a box office flop, right? And just taking you back to Thanksgiving weekend 2002, there's a brand new Bond movie, brand new Potter movie, like dropping the same day as 8 Crazy Nights. There's a Santa Claus 3 in theaters. There's Treasure Planet, all boom, 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 same, like, you know, so...
And Treasure Planet also didn't do well.
Yeah, so Potter and Bond, I think it was like 80 and 90 million, which at the time was like, both of them had broken the previous highest box office number with that, you know, for an opening day, you know, and then it drops down dramatically to Santa Claus 3, and then drops down again to Treasure Planet. And then 8 Crazy Nights was just a little bit behind Treasure Planet. We came in 5th, but we actually beat Treasure Planet on a per screen basis. They were just on 1,000 more screens than us. And Treasure Planet cost $160 million to make. We cost 34. We were profitable within the first year, and on TV every year. You know, I didn't get any of that. I didn't. You know, the only residuals that I have gotten from the movie are for the. I was the voice of Brill's teammate. Like, my character didn't even have a name. You know, my lines were like, "Yeah, good coverage," you know, like that. But I've gotten, you know, residual checks from SAG for that. Nothing from DGA, because DGA doesn't include animation in the DGA. So
I'm surprised to hear that it actually ended up being pretty successful in the end, that it did turn a profit and everything.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to share about your time on 8 Crazy Nights? I didn't know that you voiced a character in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like, 5 minutes in the edit bay, hey, we need a voice for this guy, like, you do it. So I feel that people are going to want to watch this for Kingdom Hearts, and then, if you have to make a whole other video for 8 Crazy Nights or something.
I guess we'll just kind of see what my editor does with it. I want to talk about what you're doing nowadays. You just released a comic series, Neverwonderland?
Yeah, I did a book thing, and so there's the comic. And so Neverwonderland was like the first development arc that I did for Neverwonderland. I actually did on the mixing stage while mixing 8 Crazy Nights. I just, have always loved Alice in Wonderland kind of story. And also I really wanted to do something completely different, because by the time I'm doing 8 Crazy Nights, I started with the Max, which is like a very dark comic, kind of thing. And then Simpsons and Disney and Mummies and, so it was a lot of like comedy stuff, and I really wanted to do something like on the opposite end of the spectrum. So that's part of why wanting to do a Kingdom Hearts thing. And so at the same time that I was working on Kingdom Hearts, I was developing Neverwonderland. Right about the time that I was taking it out to pitch, I actually had a great meeting at DreamWorks. The head of development was like, I love this. I would love to see this. We would never make this. And I'm like, why wouldn't you make it? And they're like, because it seems like something that Tim Burton would make, and we don't want to be seen as like doing something that someone else would do. And I was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, all right. And then like a couple months later, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland was announced. And I was like,
great.
Cool. So, I put it on hold. It was in that stack of projects that, I'll get to at some point. I'll circle back to at some point. And so, after the accident, and, some point almost never coming, for a lot of project was like, I either need to like do this or just stop talking about it. Neverwonderland, starts for me again at the beginning of the year when me and my daughter agree to do a drawing a day challenge. The only way I'm surviving a drawing a day challenge is if I funnel all of those drawings in a direction. So I funneled it all in the direction of Neverwonderland. And now I have a book. I have a stack of drawings. So this is all of the pages of the comic. So ink on paper that
seeing comic pages so big like that, like you don't see that too often.
So these pages, I had these packs of comic book pages just sitting around for that comic book that at some point I was going to make. So I'm still working through this like 20-year-old comic book paper that like I kept stockpiling for at some point I'm going to do a comic. So it's so cathartic to like finally like actually do the comic. So it's done, and it's available, and you can go to my website and get one of these. So it's this is an ash can, just a smaller version of the comic. It's black and white on the inside. This is one of 4 books that's going to tell the story of that original feature film that I wanted to do, and then I'll put it out as a graphic novel, and who knows what happens from there, but at least it will be out of my head and into the world.
Congratulations on making it a reality. So often there's like animated projects that just never get finished, and I'm like, how hard could it really be for them to just like make a comic that wraps the story up in some way? And yeah.
Turns out not that hard. You just have to like sit down and do it.
Just be Seth Kearsley. That's all you got to do.
Right. That's it. So that is page 1 of the next book. That's on my that's my analog desk, and this is my digital desk. The feeling of this is so different than pouring your heart into something that someone else owns, that they could just take away at any point. So yeah, this is very, life fulfilling. I don't know. Just, in 31 years, it's never felt like this.
I'm so glad that you've gotten to do this and that you're still around, and that you turned such a negative experience into such a positive one, that you've done all of this work since then.
Yeah.
You'll find that linked in the description. I haven't had a chance to check it out because I think at the time of recording it released yesterday.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, it released one day ago, so I hasn't really been time to check it out, but you'll find it linked below. I love the artwork, just the picture that you had on the wall there. I immediately recognized it as that because I looked into you beforehand and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, on Sunday, I did, it was like a comic / zine / art fair thing, which is like a very small, like, tabling experience. But I've never tabled before, so that was my first time tabling. Just like talking to everyone that goes by about like my story and like how it relates to this and how like my work on the Max sort of feeds into this, and the Kingdom Hearts stuff kind of feeds into this. Definitely like inspired a bit of her hairstyle, Kingdom Hearts, and also Beetlejuice with the Winona Ryder character in that.
I'm sure you learned a lot about telling a fantastical story as well from your work on Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely a big world. I'm constantly like, did I bite off more than I can chew? But I'm just sort of like powering through. The reaction to it is a lot different than the reaction that I get to most of my work. And also like this kind of thing, if there was this show, then they were looking for a director, they probably wouldn't look at me. So the fact that I can do this and be like, this is the kind of thing that I would rather do, it's a good calling card, and it's very cathartic.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience? Doesn't have to be Kingdom Hearts related. Anything about the book?
About this book? Or
anything you want to share? You have the floor, just so long as it doesn't get me banned off YouTube.
I mean, not really. The animation industry is in a bad spot right now, and doing this kind of thing, like doing my own project, helps in so many different ways. I have a lot of people that will like come and like reach out to me on Twitter or whatever, and like they want to pitch me their idea. I say this to them, and I feel like a lot of times people think that I'm just blowing them off, but I say like, you should make it like yourself in whatever way that is, whether it's like you're doing a comic book or you're doing a children's book or whatever it is, however you can get it out to the world, that's what you should do. Because to try to like pitch it to me, who then has to pitch it to someone, who then has to pitch it to someone, who then has to pitch it to someone. So much time could be wasted just with pitching. You could have spent that time actually making the thing, and then you'd have a thing at the end, instead of, a pitch that, has like changed with everybody that you pitched it to, that had notes and all of that.
Mm-hmm. It's always, let's take this big, beautiful thing that you made. Okay, now let's ruin it so we can sell it to 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
I always tell people that in the time that you spend waiting for the right opportunity, or the, owning all of the best equipment and saving up to buy like an ultra mega powerful computer to make your thing, I'm like, you could have already completed the project with what means you do have, and have learned from making it. Yeah, for sure. You're never ready to start. Just start. I mean, all of our early work is rough. You only learn from doing. Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a great experience. Like, I'm glad that I get to, help tell your story and get your experiences out there. You had wonderful creative advice. I can tell that you care a lot about your craft and a lot about this project in particular. Yeah, well, thank you for having me and letting me tell my story and of course, push my book. So yeah, I appreciate it. Of course. I got to learn where the meme from The Simpsons came from. That's educational value. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure.